So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:30. I'd like to recognize a large number of the public, well, 5 of you anyway. And I'm going to invite you just to say your names so that everybody will know if you want to.
To our studio audience.
To our studio audience. So you could introduce yourselves.
Start with me, Charlie Bannis.
Jeff Houghton.
Allie Houghton.
Dwayne Bell.
Jerry Bell.
Thank you. There are rules of procedure under the sign-in sheet, but basically it says, please wait until I ask you to talk, and comments are limited in the discussion to like 5 minutes for a total discussion. We usually try to be a little bit expandable. I have one, but are there new additions to the agenda other than what I have?
I have none.
Okay, so I think, anybody else?
Does everyone have an
Do you
agenda,
guys,
by the
Jeff,
way?
do you want an agenda?
Sure.
Anyone else? Charlie, Kevin?
Yeah.
So I think under communications, I just want to say something about the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department, or if Miranda, if you could.
Oh,
No, under communications.
under communication, sure.
And are there changes to the agenda order?
I have none.
None.
Okay, so I think we'll go ahead with the approval of the minutes of September 14th, 2018. I cannot remember.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Miranda gave each.
And I can second it because Richard wasn't here, right?
I was
Correct.
here on September 14th.
You were not.
No.
You were not.
Oh,
It was September 24th. You were gone. Or out.
This was the last one.
What was our last
I was absent at the last
Right.
meeting.
You were.
That's,
That's
that's,
the last
that's
meeting.
what it's from.
Okay, so Gordon
Moved
moved
and
and Miranda
seconded.
seconded to accept the minutes, the regular minutes of the meeting on September 24th. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Actually need,
You
I can't say.
You
You have to
abs-
abstain.
you
I
abstain.
Abstains.
and so I'm gonna actually record this as a roll call vote since
Oh, yeah.
Good
Richard
idea.
was not absent, or not here.
Is Danny coming tonight?
Danny is not coming. Danny has a pre-planned event this evening.
Okay.
But I did speak to him this afternoon, and they've been doing their typical fall work. They've been blowing leaves, working on stone lining ditches, cleaning culverts, installing culverts, and doing lots of grading. They've also been doing some mowing, and that's about the extent of it. And that's what they're going to be doing until the snow flies.
Or until they have to fill more roads tomorrow, because there's going to be
Yes.
torrential flood warnings for tomorrow, so.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So for new business, we wanted to plan and set a date for the town office open house. I'd like to know if anybody has given this thought. No. Okay. So I'm
Date-wise?
Date-wise or
I thought about it, and I think
event-wise, or
it's a great idea.
it's a great
Yeah,
idea.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I guess it's sort of a concept of whether we should do it after Thanksgiving.
Oh, there's an idea. Well, we definitely need to do it after taxes are due. So after November 15th. Taxes are due November 15th, everybody.
Taxes.
Taxes are due
October 15th, I'm sorry.
October.
After October 15th. Sorry,
She
I went wrong
has
with-
announced a new
Sorry.
reprieve.
Never mind,
That's
disregard what I just said. Taxes are due October 15th, we should do it after
After that.
October 15th.
Is there more work that still needs to be done before it's declared finished?
Yes, there are a few items, and actually Joe is here this afternoon to discuss them with me.
Uh-huh.
So they should be done within the next 2 weeks, so that also will cover the taxes deadline.
No, the deadline is for taxes is Monday.
Yeah.
So I just sort of brainstormed a little bit with Peter, and we thought maybe a Thursday evening, say from 4 to 6, so people didn't have to stay late, but it gives people a time to, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6:30 actually. Just so that people have a chance to get here if they want
Sounds
to
good.
after work.
And I just make sure we give enough time to the public to know about it.
Right.
It seems to take a little
Yeah, well, I
time
don't think
for.
there's any big rush to
No,
do it,
I
but we
agree.
could do it on So the vote is November 6th, so we don't want, the general election, we don't want to do it then, you know. So-
And then there's Veterans Day.
So maybe on, yeah, maybe in the beginning of December, or November 29th or something. Because I think we need to be here to talk to people, to take them through, to show them what happened, to be able to discuss
No, I
budget
agree.
if it comes up. So how does the 29th of November work? It's the week after Thanksgiving?
That's probably good because getting into December is people's schedules
Yeah.
really get crammed.
So we should have, maybe we could do an invitation and we could invite people from
Apologies.
4:30 to 6:30?
I think that's a good time.
And just to stop by and look if they want to, and to meet with the select board if they want to. And I think we need to warn that, because there'll be more than
That is correct.
2 select board, I hope, members here.
Yes, hopefully more than 2. So,
So a reception for the new town office.
Yeah,
I mean, for the renovated town office.
you said November which?
29th.
Thank you.
4:30 to 6:30.
So I guess we should have a motion.
Okay, I move that we hold a reception for the renovated town office on Thursday evening, November 29th from 4:30 to
I
6:30.
second that motion.
Could I add, excuse me, before you do, could I add one thing? Assuming that is acceptable to the staff.
Oh, right.
I think we need to make
Yes,
sure that
no,
they're
I agree.
okay with that. So if
Oh,
you
for
want-
sure, that's a good idea.
So we can put it on the calendar and agree that that's the direction we want to go into, but I think we need to ask Pete, Ellie, and Penny as well.
Okay, and so, I mean, does the motion
I
need
think-
to say subject to the approval of the staff?
Yeah.
Okay. I
I
add
second
You
it.
seconded?
Uh-huh.
Any discussion? So I think Miranda, if assuming it's okay with Penny, et cetera, we can.
The
craft-
communication
We could
committee
craft an
can-
invitation to the
Right.
town and figure out where to distribute it and so
And,
forth.
and then at some other meeting, we can discuss how the event should be, what we should do.
Yeah, maybe cookies or something.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to have some kind, it's
Top tier-
disgraceful to
top tier
invite
bakery.
people over
To have
and
snacks.
not have something to eat.
Top tier bakery,
Yeah.
cupcakes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to see if we have a budget for this.
Except that we can't have it be sloppy.
No,
I mean, we have a renovated town office, we
Right.
don't want too many crumbs.
okay, well, we'll work those details out, so. Great, thank you.
All in
Um,
favor?
Well, that's exciting. Oh,
We need to
we
approve.
have-
Oh, is there all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Well, that's really nice, I'm glad we're doing that.
So the other thing that we had in our folder was a letter of appreciation to our town staff for all of this stuff that they went through, which, I mean,
Yeah,
just plug your ears for it. So, I mean, Peter's probably seen it, but it basically talks about all of the hassles they went through and the patients that they dealt with. Actually, you could probably describe this better than I, Miranda.
Well, that's okay. It was in your folder.
I read
I
it.
read it.
Oh, okay.
So we don't need to
We
go
kind
over
of
it.
don't want to divulge it. I think it's going to be in the Gazette. We're going to send it to people and we'll send it, but we just like not.
I think
we'd
it's a
like the
very-
It
recipient to
doesn't
get the
require
letter.
a motion, does it?
No.
Just requires.
I don't know. I think it might, just to make sure that we are in order with our
I
communication.
move that we send a letter of appreciation to the staff of
As-
the town of Guilford for their appreciation
Forbearance.
for forbearance during the renovation of their workspace, the town office,
As drafted and submitted to the select.
as drafted and submitted to the select board.
Thank you.
Second.
You second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. The second item under old business was a placeholder for Green River Road State Grant and the repairs. And that's, we're not gonna talk about that tonight because we don't have all of the information. So that will
Be
hopefully be
tabled.
clarified and tabled tonight and placed on the next, I think the next meeting is October
22nd.
22nd. So we will hopefully have everything organized to talk about on that, in that meeting. So, so we're through with new business and old business. Whew.
Very good.
Emergency exercise updates. So at some point in the spring or summer, I consulted with the select board to determine whether or not we wanted to participate in a statewide exercise, emergency planning exercise that was more geared toward how the town interfaces with the after event issues, and how our emergency operations center works with the state operations. So it's really more to test state emergency operations than Guilford or Guilford readiness. And we agreed that I and Herb Myers, our your two previous executive emergency managers, whatever it was, management director, would be involved in the planning of this. And it was going to take 5 days between now and October of 2019 when the exercise was going to take place. And Herb and I met with Rich Cogliano, who is the the regional coordinator. I don't think that title does him justice. And I explained to him that I thought Guilford should not participate in this for 2 reasons. One is I don't think I can take on anything more, and my health hasn't been that great to allow it. And then also I didn't see that, I thought we needed to focus our emergency preparedness efforts on more towards our volunteers and how prepared our new emergency management director is. And Rich agreed with me, and so did Herb. And so we are not going to participate in the statewide exercise other than to be on call if they want to phone in and ask some questions about how we might deal with this. And that would take place only on the 19th so only in October of 2019. So instead we worked up a small plan for dealing with new volunteers, for engaging current volunteers, and for making sure that our emergency operations center is up to speed and that we're in communication with everybody. And Chuck is pretty much in agreement with that too. So I just wanted to update people on that.
Thank you.
And so that doesn't require any kind of motion
No,
or?
we moved that we could participate. We actually were invited to submit to participate, but it wasn't obviously obvious that we were going to be selected. But because Guilford has such a reputation for being good participants, they did select us, but they're fine with us excusing ourselves. So I just wanted to.
Well, thank you for your work on that.
Yeah. So the next and probably the biggest, according to our public item on the agenda, is our flood and fluvial erosion hazard ordinance vote. And we're talking about communications and next steps tonight. We are not talking about the ordinance itself, just so everybody is clear on that. 2 people have come in, 3 actually.
Could you sign in, please? And we have agendas here too.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. So I'm going to try my best, and we'll hope that Peter will participate in this, to explain the history of this flood and fluvial erosion hazard vote. I'm now looking for my document here.
Could you just further explain for us and the public, perhaps, what we mean by the agenda item that is stressing communications and not voting on the ordinance? Could you make that plainer, please?
So we've had a lot of public forums and meetings and things like that on the ordinance itself, and we are still going to have another one, and we will have a townwide mailing coming out relatively soon. We made a mistake about the vote itself, which was petitioned by a number of citizens in Guilford, and we made several mistakes. And we thought that we were going to have a vote on the ballot for asking voters of the town of Guilford if they would like the select board to disapprove the proposed flood and fluvial erosion
That's
hazard.
what the petition was.
That was the petition.
Yeah, that was
We had a
not what-
petition.
Correct, but that was not what the vote was.
It was, shall the voters of the town of Guilford disapprove the proposed flood and fluvial erosion hazard regulation bylaw, which was adopted on Monday, February 26, 2018. That was the vote that we thought was coming, the question that was coming to a vote before the town on November 6th of this year. And it's not coming before the town on November 6th this year. So that, what is on the agenda tonight is to talk about why not and what next. Not-
And how we explain.
and how, why not, the explanation for why not, and what next. So, and the ordinance is going to, can be discussed again at the next public information session, which will be, I think, sometime in December. So,
Thank you.
thank you for asking that question. So, the brief history is that on February 26, 2018, the select board approved a flood and fluvial erosion hazard ordinance. And on March 20th,
Is everyone aware of that?
um,
How does the communication get out about it?
so I'm sorry, I'm giving you the history now. I think it might be best for people to save questions until we get through the history. I will, that vote of the select board came about, took place 14 months after the select board and the community began considering the ordinance itself. So, and there was a lot of communication about it to the community. If people have questions about communications to the community, I would ask you to address them to me separately, because we've done a lot, and so, but there will be a lot more communication. So, on March 20th, a group of concerned Guilford residents submitted the petition to put before the votes the question that I just read to everybody. And on March 26th, so 6 days later, after that petition was submitted, the select board rescinded its original February 26th vote. So we took it back. So the citizen petition was submitted on time. However, because the select board had rescinded the vote, the petition was was no longer valid. So that was the first mistake that we know of. We didn't realize as a select board or as a town administration that the petition wasn't valid because there was no ordinance at that point. So there was nothing to disapprove. But we went ahead as if the petition was valid and it didn't matter. And we thought we were going to be able to schedule the vote on November 6th. There was an oversight in the office, and the question wasn't put to the ballot, was not put on the ballot. However, I'm pretty sure that it could not have gotten on the ballot because the November 6th vote is a general election, and it's a general ballot.
The
And-
Secretary of State's office confirmed that
this-
it would not have been on the
But
ballot.
we don't make the ballot up. They make the ballot up and send it to us. So the general November election is a general statewide election. It's not for local issues. So mistake number 2, we thought we could go ahead, but we would not have been able to had the matter been put to the Secretary of State, but that didn't get to the Secretary of State. So starting, when did the absentee ballot vote start? A couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
You wrote September 21st.
September 21st, it was brought to our attention that A, the question wasn't on the ballot, and B, it shouldn't have been on the ballot anyway. So basically, therein began a major civics lesson for the select board and the town administration. And there was a number of things that should have happened, but they didn't happen, and so now we have to figure out what to do going forward. And we recognize that not the select board, the planning commission, the conservation commission, the citizens who put together the petition to have the select board disapprove, to put the question before the town to have the select board disapprove the ordinance, everybody has put in hours and hours and hours and hours of work and thought and debate and discussion and just conversations with your neighbors, appearing before the select board, and we are, I think that that's been a valuable process. I'm sorry that it didn't work out so that the issue was taken up and closed on November 6th or after November 6th. But I will say that it seems that our mistake is also our good fortune. We have enough time so that we can make it possible for the vote to be taken and for citizens to come back and re-petition. And the reason for, so we've been advised that what the select board needs to do is re-adopt the ordinance. And then, if there's a new petition, if people are still opposed to the select board adopting the flood and fluvial erosion hazard ordinance, people can re-petition. And there's an opportunity for this to be a binding vote. So here's another confusing element in this civics lesson. Only the select board may adopt an ordinance. The town may not adopt an ordinance. Town voters may not adopt an ordinance. So if there was a vote prior to the town's adopting to the select board adopting an ordinance, it would only be an advisory vote. That means that the select board could vote according to its wishes, accepting the advice of the town or not. However, if we re-adopt the ordinance, and if the petition is brought to the town voters, if there's a successful re-petition, and then there's a vote taken, and if the voters say the select board should disapprove the ordinance, that is a binding vote. If the voters say, no, the ordinance should stay, everything stays the way it is. So I think before I continue, I'm going to ask if there are any questions, Lynn, because that is the what was. And I'm going to get into what can be in a minute. So I want to ask if there are questions about that part of what I just explained. Lynn?
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
ask you. I'd like to catch the very tail end of what you just shared about the binding vote when you said, how would the public vote that?
Okay.
So that you said there could be a petition, you'd re-adopt, there could be a petition, and what creates it as a binding vote? I just need that
Okay.
piece, if you would,
So
please.
I'll send, we're going to send this out to the whole town, but
Sheila, I have
It's
it
right
right
here.
in front of me.
should the
Okay.
voters, okay, do you want to read it, Miranda?
Let's see. Okay, I'm Veranda, and a few of us spent about 3 hours just trying to distill all this and simplify it so that we could understand it. And we had a few people reading the document that's going to be sent for clarity and simplicity, as simple as it could be. But
And if I can just add
Yeah.
it's that document that we are discussing tonight that is on the agenda.
Once we get through
What is the form of communication? What do we
I just want to
communicate?
understand. that
yeah, and I
process.
will, okay. So, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns advised that the best course of action is for the select board to re-adopt the ordinance, which was rescinded in March 2018. Residents who oppose the ordinance may then petition to include a question on the warning for the voters for the March 2019 town meeting for an Australian ballot. The petition might read, should the voters of Guilford disapprove the flood and fluvial erosion hazard ordinance? The results of this vote would be binding because voter control over an ordinance is after the fact. In other words, according to Vermont law, only a yes vote to revoke an existing ordinance is binding.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
And that's going to be assuming that we adopt this communication tonight, that's going to be submitted townwide.
in the Gazette to everybody.
So it wouldn't be just during town meeting?
No, it would be Australian ballot.
It would actually.
Yeah,
be
and so
that.
the vote could take place.
I'm just
Yeah.
asking so the public.
No, and
Yeah.
also
That's a
we
good
want
question.
people to know that, so it's a
So,
fine
but that is what
question.
will be. Okay? So, are there any questions about how this lesson in civics that we've just gone through and has been extremely difficult to sort out and understand? Charlie?
From what I understand, there was time discrepancies, why this wasn't binding or legal. this
The
petition.
discrepancy was not because of time, it's because the select board adopted, the petition came in, which was valid, had we not rescinded our vote. Repealed our vote.
Because you had already adopted.
Okay, so,
And the effort of the select board at that point was to support the petition and the people that brought it forward to say, okay, you know, we should revisit this with an Australian ballot or, you know,
Yeah.
a written form. Hence doing it,
started a
what's the correct word?
sequence-
We didn't rescind, we
Repealed.
repealed what our decision had been on that ordinance, thinking we were doing the right thing all the way around. Turns out what we did was not the right thing in
And we
dissolving it.
and we couldn't have done it in November anyway, so.
But the petition was for an Australian ballot vote.
Mhm.
So why isn't that still binding?
It's because of the fact, according to the state of Vermont, only select boards can pass an ordinance.
Yeah, but you passed that.
We pass it and then we repealed it.
So what makes you not gonna do that again?
I didn't say we're not going to do it again. I said we might do it again. I mean, the
Repeal
select
it?
board now, we might, repeal it again?
No. What Charlie's saying is,
Oh.
because we didn't know at the time.
We didn't
I
know.
don't think, I think
We-
the
No,
intention, no, but I, from my own perspective, when we saw the petition and we saw the interest in this issue being raised to the, you know, to the level it was, obviously, you know, the select board's here to support the town. And I think every one of the select board members agreed that this should go to a town vote. Now, some of us raised this question early on the select board, should it be a vote, should it not be a vote? At that time, there didn't seem to be the, you know, the feeling that it should be a vote. So,
Well, it can't be a vote legally because it,
no, but I'm talking about when we first started talking
Yeah.
about this issue.
So,
The point is, I think what the select board at that time was trying to do was, you know, do what's right from the town, from what we heard. The answer to your question is, I suppose the select board could do it again, but that is not the intent, certainly from this select board member and other select board members that I have spoken to about this issue. We'd like to get this resolved for the town, one way or the other, whatever the townspeople feel is the appropriate way to move, and move on. You know, we don't want to be,
yeah, sorry.
you're the chair, I'm sorry.
Just out of curiosity, so if I'm understanding right, you found out, or the lesson in civics happened when we realized it wasn't on the ballot?
Yes,
So from
yeah.
March
Exactly.
to November?
No. It happened in the last 3 weeks. since
Right, or
since the ballot
October
came.
rather, not
There's
November.
And September to now.
Whenever we found out.
Yeah, for the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've been working on figuring out what we should have done, what we need to do, how to do it so that the town is satisfied, so that we get to an Australian ballot, how to make sure that the vote can be binding.
And that's the critical mass, is that it
Um,
should be a binding vote.
yeah.
We had heard other things, that if this had gone through, then it wouldn't necessarily be binding, it could be brought forth, and, you know, this way it's binding according to the Vermont City Lease and Towns.
You know, Charlie, go ahead.
Charlie?
If you look at the scope and the magnitude of this ordinance, you will understand why the taxpayers don't want any part of this. Let me just give you a little bit of insight on some math that I've done.
So I'm sorry, is this about the ordinance or about the communication, Charlie?
This is
Because the
about-
insight on the math can be done at the next public information hearing. Or
This
you can
is-
submit that to the select board in writing, but tonight we are talking about the communication.
Yeah, I just want to enlighten you on something you may not be aware of. Can I
2
do
minutes.
is it
that?
about the communication?
I'm going to just make an excuse for just please not for more than 2 minutes. And
Okay.
please
Well,
do
let me
not be
do a-
insulted if we do not
Let me do a little bit of
respond.
math for you. For every 300 lineal feet of stream, there's a possible 2 acres of land given up. That's on 1 acre on one side, one on the other. Now, if you add up all the mileage of streams in the town of Guilford, you're talking thousands of acres of land. That's my point. I don't know if you've thought about this.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. So now people are gonna wanna know what's next. Because we've all learned a lot.
Do you want me to read the next steps, or do you?
The timeline for next steps? Sure.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, okay,
We are proposing that.
okay, timeline for next steps.
This is a draft we're talking about.
This is a draft that we're sharing, and you're here, and we're sharing it with each other and with you, okay? So, this is a proposed timeline, November 2018. A packet of information, including answers to questions frequently asked around town, will be mailed to every household. Those are questions that were developed by the Planning Commission and the Conservation Commission together with advice from other people, okay? By November 26th, 2018 at the latest, the Select Board will adopt a re-examined ordinance. And by re-examined, I mean that there have been people in the town who have been concerned about some of the boilerplate wording of the ordinance in addition to the implications of it. And my understanding is that some people are going to make recommendations to us to make it more tailored to Guilford rather than kind of a general ordinance, okay? So, I mean, and you're gonna get all this information, so you don't have to take extensive notes. So,
I've given you, you have a copy, Lynn.
yeah,
I gave you a copy of this.
yeah, so,
As part of being a teacher, I guess I just take notes.
I
Okay,
do
I'm just
too.
telling you that because you were on that committee that drafted this, I send out a copy of this draft to everybody.
okay.
Okay.
So, November 26, 2018, at the latest, the Select Board adopts the re-examined ordinance. December 2018, a rescheduled community forum where, once again, the community will have a chance to discuss the ordinance in detail. Between January 4th and January 9th, 2019, this is a time frame within which a new petition should be submitted to vote on disapproving the ordinance on town meeting day, March 5th, 2019. In other words, the town office has that window. I mean, if the vote is done, if the petition is done before that, you can hold on to it and give it to Penny in that window of time. And so on March 5th, 2019, on town meeting day, there will be a vote by Australian ballot with the whole range of, time for the voting. And that's what we've proposed.
I actually have, as I'm listening to this, three
With their
proposed,
some revisions.
yes, I think that on November 26th, the Select Board will decide whether to adopt the re-examined ordinance or not. In other words, it's not a foregone conclusion that the Select
okay.
Board will adopt the ordinance on November
Oh,
26th.
okay.
So
And if
this,
you don't at that time, the issue is
this
finished.
issue's gone, there's no ordinance.
Oh, okay.
So I think on November 26th, the Select Board decides whether to adopt the re-examined
Okay.
ordinance or not.
Well, thank you for correcting this.
And are you, hold on 1 second. And then on March 5th, January 4th, the timeframe within which a new petition should be submitted to vote on disapproving the ordinance on town meeting day or not.
Or
Because- And then on March 5th, the town meeting day voting by Australian ballot or by absentee ballot prior to town meeting.
Oh.
Because I think we need to put in there that there will be an absentee ballot at that
Sure.
point.
Excellent, well, great revisions.
So my only question
Sorry
on the
about the
January date
incompleteness.
was, and that gives us plenty of time to warn this for the town meeting.
January 4th to 9th, yeah.
And it
So,
will be in the town warrant, the published town warning.
yeah. So January
Right.
4th,
I want to make sure that I'm clear, that that timeframe allows for that
yeah,
to
we've
happen.
gone through that math.
Okay, good, good, good.
The
Because
si-
initially
There's a
there were questions.
44-day petition and a 60-day time frame between, so there are 5 days, and in fact, there's really only 2 or 3, because the town office is
That's
closed
why,
on the
that's why I'm
4th.
asking this question.
Yeah,
Okay,
so it's.
So the petition, can it come in early? Why why can't
no,
it come in early?
Because it gets certified that it gets certified on the date that it's submitted to
Okay,
Penny.
so knowing
But it
that
can be
Penny has to
created.
be here,
Penny has to
so
be
what
here.
days, it sounds like there are 2 days that we only have the option
let
of
me
in
just-
January?
Look at my calendar.
Because I just want to be clear on that,
Yeah.
that, on this message.
Hang on.
For
So
the
January
petitioners.
4th is a Friday, so it has to be on the 7th, 8th, or 9th.
Okay, that's what it should say,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my opinion.
And it should
You're
say
right,
what
Gordon.
we're talking, and it should articulate the 7th, 8th, or 9th, the petition has to be
Because-
presented
right,
to the town
exactly.
clerk.
To be
Yeah.
certified by Penny.
Okay, I think that's so Brenda, we can fix that.
Oh, sure, thank
Okay.
you.
So, yes, so there are 3
Thank you.
days that the petition can be submitted to Penny. Okay, sorry, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot your name again, I'm sorry.
Tammy.
Tammy.
So, the petition, do we have to have some sort of direct petition?
I'm sorry, I
I'm
can't hear
sorry,
you.
I can't hear
Do
you.
we have to have some sort of direct petition paperwork from you guys, or how does?
I
how
would
do we
consult with Peter on the,
Peter,
Peter.
through town administrator, on the best wording for the petition. I think,
we can write it ourselves?
yeah,
Sure.
and just to make sure that
can,
it's
but we-
legal, we'll
right.
pass it by the Secretary of State. We don't want to go through this again, so we want to make sure that everything is proper.
So it needs to be stated directly on the petition in a form that denounces if the select board does reapprove this.
Yeah,
So that's where the wording, it's not that someone can't necessarily come up with a wording, but
yeah.
we want to make sure it's specific and will be held up.
And meets the requirements for the vote, so
Right.
that the vote
So
is
there's no
valid.
issues.
And that's what it meant about the yes vote. It has to be said positively. Shall the voters, shall the
Disapprove.
voters
So that,
revoke,
But that's, you see, we got
Yeah.
3 different
should the voters.
things right here.
Well,
No, but that's why Peter can give you the exact terminology, that if the voters agreed on, in an Australian ballot to, whatever the wording is, that would be what, it will say on the actual ballot, whatever that petition says
and
correctly.
how many, 5% of
yeah, I think it was like
86.
80,
86.
86?
yeah.
Yep.
That's about how many, you got more than
It's
that.
not-
86 signatures.
It's 86 signatures.
Signatures,
And it,
not 86%.
No.
86,
no, it's 86 signatures, and that number is based off of the number of registered voters. It's not based off of the number of residents, it's registered voters. So Guilford has more residents than it does registered voters, as most towns in Vermont do.
and honestly, I think we feel, the select board feels badly that this has to be done again.
We do.
We've got to go get 86 signatures
Well,
to
I
do
mean,
this position.
both
So
sides
for the
should
people that took the
know
time to
what
do
has to be
that,
done.
it's unfortunate. I'm sorry we have to do
But
this
that's
again.
only if you reapprove it.
Right.
That's
That's
only
correct.
if it's reapproved, that is correct.
Charlie,
So could someone write down for me, if you do reapprove this, what is the earliest and the latest that the petition has to be in?
January 7th, 8th,
7th,
and 9th are the
9th.
days that you have, that have the petition can be submitted and meet the requirement for the deadline of the petition and to get onto the town meeting vote.
We're talking about the language that will be in the communication that will be sent to you. So those
You'll have-
dates,
But
those
Char-
dates will be included.
But
Yeah.
what Charlie's asking, I think, is maybe when, I heard a November date that the select board would either reapprove the ordinance or not. What was the date on
Yeah,
that letter?
That's November
So
26th.
from November 26th through, it would have to be completed by January 7th, 8th, or 9th and handed in. Does that
To
answer
be
your question?
certified.
Yeah, I just want to get the timeline right, because that's what happened last time.
Right, so that would be, in my opinion, the timeline is,
Yeah.
the select board will make that decision, and if the select board does move forward with the ordinance, that would have from this November 26th to January 7th, 8th, or 9th to get it completed, the petition.
Hang on one second, please. Peter?
So, just for clarification for those present and on TV, state law states that residents have 44 days to petition. So you have 44 days from the day of adoption. So to get your 86 signatures. Then once that petition is submitted, say you submit it on the 44th day, which is January 9th, but because the office is closed, it has to be several
January
days.
4th.
No, it's January 9th.
Well, we're open January 9th now.
We're open.
And so then once that is received and certified by the town clerk, then the select board has 60 days to schedule a new vote. So what the select board is trying to do to meet the request of residents, as well as to get as many people as possible to vote on this, should it be adopted, is to hold it at town meeting. And so town meeting, that within that 60 days is from January 4th onwards, which is what Sheila was explaining earlier. Does that make sense to everyone? I see a couple of fuzzy looks coming back.
I think, I only want to reiterate, I think people have heard that it's going to be on town meeting day, but I think the importance, because a lot of people work and can't make it there, to just know that truly the Australian ballot request would be honored. I think
Oh, absolutely.
And
I think
early
that's
voting.
It has to be,
all people want
absolutely.
here.
It has to be
early
an
voting.
Australian ballot.
And the ability to do an absentee ballot.
It cannot be,
Yeah.
it cannot be from the floor, it has
That's,
to be
we're gonna
Australian
add that
ballot.
into the communications.
Did
of
we,
that.
Sheila, or Peter, do we know when early voting absentee ballots would be, what's the beginning of the early voting window?
I believe that, I'm not
It's already
100% certain.
occurred.
Well, no, for town
No,
meeting.
no, for town meeting.
I believe it's either
Australian
the last
ballot.
week of January or the beginning of February. I would need to confirm that
Okay.
for sure with Penny.
But there's ample notice about,
Oh, of
voting,
course, I
you
just
know, early
was curious
timing.
about absentee ballots and what kind of time frame there was for
so
it.
one more question I think you have.
Yeah, and I think you probably already said this, a lot of information, so I just want to be clear. You're voting on the 26th of November whether or not you're going to reapprove
Right.
this ordinance
It will be on the agenda on the 26th.
because of the way it was repealed before, or just because we're doing it again?
To give the town a chance to vote on it in a way that's a binding vote.
So that the
But
vote
I guess
is
my
binding.
confusion was, right, and I get that, so the way that you repealed it before, you weren't allowed to by law?
Oh, no, we could rescind it.
We
But
could
just then
rescind it, but
I
we
guess
can't
I-
then we can't put it out to a vote the way it was stated, that is a
Right,
binding
it's
vote.
Just, I was confused because it seemed like that's what the voters wanted, was it for it to be repealed? But now we're here again saying you're gonna vote on it again when you don't.
No, it was my understanding was it was to be repealed by the select board. It was what we decided to do based on the fact it would be an Australian ballot for the town to vote on it, on an Australian ballot basis.
So basically, the situation is, the petitioners didn't want the select
Right.
board to vote on it, but the town, we don't know the will of the town. So that's why.
And that's why we're gonna
so-
put it out to a full
And the
vote.
select board believed that it was a proper ordinance.
Okay.
Right.
So Charlie, one more?
Well, I guess that it's obvious to see that the voters don't want it because the petition was twice the number that was required for the petition. It was like double the number. I don't know, to me it would just be a lot simpler and a lot less aggravation if you guys just, in November, just voted it down.
I was gonna say
Save
that.
a lot of,
Exactly.
I mean, the people have already said they don't want it.
Charlie, in all fairness, some people have said they don't want it.
Yeah.
I've talked to some people who want it, I've talked to some people who don't want it. And personally, I think that's why you put it before the town
Yeah.
in a vote in Australian ballot, so that the town can represent their decision as a town.
So I'd like to
In all
say one-
fairness to
excuse me.
everybody. I'm
I think
sorry.
we're done talking about the communication. We have the next steps in front of us. I wanted to address your question about communications, just to summarize this for people. So I'm not going to go through the whole list of everything that was done to communicate about the flood and fluvial erosion hazard ordinance from January of 2017 up until March of 2018. However, it's the communications that we try to do most recently and through this, actually through much of this whole process was to reach out to, at that point, the 451 property owners who could have been affected by the ordinance. Number two, we put stuff in the Gazette. There's been a whole, the whole recent article of, issue of the Gazette was about this. Number three, we have we have select board meetings, and the agendas are posted on the town website, which is www.guilfordvermont.net, vt.net. And our agendas and our minutes are posted every time. The ordinance has been posted on there, and many of the relevant documents have been posted on the town website as well. Number four, we do front porch forum notices. Recently, I've been doing some Facebook notices on Guilford, Vermont. We will do a townwide communication again, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something.
Well, we had the townwide communication meeting at the school.
Yeah, plus the public information hearings.
Public information.
And we also post on the Green River Covered Bridge, the Grange,
Not the Grange, well, it's under construction.
not the Grange while it's under construction, the library? Are we doing anything else? The
No,
town office?
Town office, the country store, and the bridge.
And the bridge. So we push out information in whatever way we can. If people get it or don't think there's no, we don't know any other ways to get information out there, basically. I mean, if you
They're
don't.
also televised.
Oh, yeah, and the meetings are televised. So, I mean, I think we've covered our bases to the extent possible. I am trying to find out if we could possibly use some email addresses that the town might have for emergency E911 so that we can also email this to people as well. But we don't have a complete E911 email list, and it's kind of a random thing whether we'd get people or not. So it will be mailed out, and it will be in this coming Gazette, and it will be in the town office. It will be at the polling place on November 6th, so that if people have questions, it's going to be there. So I don't think there are many other ways to communicate other than electronically and by our local newsletter and in the posting places and at the polls. So, Charlie, last question, and this is the third time I've said last.
Okay, so last thing, I've been to a lot of the meetings.
Mhm.
It seems like every meeting has been one-sided. We hear a lot from the people that are for it, but the people that are against the ordinance don't seem to want to hear us. That's my take on all the meetings that have been going. So to me, that's not communication, because it's one-sided.
That's not, maybe that doesn't feel like a discussion. The communication has been there. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I've had lots of conversations with people. People have been invited to take up the issue independently with Steve. People have been given the floor. I'm sorry if you feel that way. I feel differently, I will say.
No, and I think we want people to attend the meeting for that reason, to be heard, Charlie. And there's been some good discussion at that. I think what the select board is attempting to do is to present the facts about the ordinance as it's been presented to the select board. And by that, I mean, here is the impact of pushing this ordinance through. Here is what happens for the town if if this does go through. This is the impact in this way for the town. And as best it can be laid out, this is the impact as we understand it to the property owners but that piece of it is more in Steve Lemke's basket to help everyone understand clearer. But I think the select board at these meetings, with the help of Steve Lemke, is just trying to present the ordinance, and this is what it is. It's not trying to quiet an element.
Well, I think I can agree with him, because even sitting here tonight myself, I feel like the floor is taken more by, say, that table than this side, where we're told, okay, last question, whatever. So I can kind of see what he may be saying, and I haven't been to every meeting, but I can feel that in this room tonight as well.
Do you have a suggestion on, at one of these meetings, how we could better allow for a discussion on both sides? I mean,
I have a couple things. I think one, for people who do have questions, there's often reference, I know that Steve Lemke is very knowledgeable and has more or less headed the subject. I've tried to be a voice to bring that out, that some people want an answer then versus, told to contact him directly. I think some people, when they pose a question, they just want the whole group to hear the response, so that's one. And two, I have a general question for you folks as the select board, and even if I were sitting there, even though Steve is the one who's done a lot of the research and holds the knowledge, I would hope in December I think I'm going to ask, what is the downside? Has that been looked at? Because I know that some towns in Vermont have not accepted the ordinance. And so are we looking at the whys? And why is it that they don't adopt that? We can't, I think, to kind of just share a little bit of what Charlie's been saying, to every good, there's also oftentimes things that are not. And what does that look like? And have we asked that question of Steve? Have you folks?
In response to that question, I would say that the meeting that we had, the public meeting for the town and the select board with officials from the state, that was focused on those very questions that you're asking. And that back and forth. That was the purpose of the public information.
I was there.
I'm just gonna say again that we are not discussing the ordinance. We are discussing the communication. Lynn, your question is a good one, and I've written it down.
Yes.
And I will ask Steve to
Meeting
be.
in December.
Yeah. So I'll ask Steve to be.
For you folks,
Yeah.
if nothing else, to hear. And-
So what you
that's-
said is, what is the
I wrote it
downside?
down
Why
too.
have other towns not adopted it? What if, so.
And I would really recommend, Charlie, that the December meeting would be a really good time for you to prepare the remarks that you have based on your research and your experience, and put them out there, and we will listen. Everyone will listen.
May I speak, Zane? Just personally to what Lynn was saying, I was at a conference about 3 weeks ago that was put on by the Vermont Emergency Management by the state. And one of the workshops I attended, they stated that at this point in time that approximately 35% of Vermont towns have adopted.
Right.
So
So-
again, the question is a good one.
Yep, I'm just
Well,
reinforcing.
Yeah.
I'm exactly aware, I thought it was 70-30, so it's 65. I'm aware of that, and my wheels have been turning for months, just wondering, why is that percentage that low? And so,
Great.
we'll pose that out there, and perhaps it can be discussed.
Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. I mean, I haven't
Yeah.
partially in response to your question. I haven't asked this of the select board yet, so this is all new to them. But one option we could do if they were interested is I could present Lynn's question to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and what they will do is they will send that question out to all
That's a good
member
idea.
towns, and then they will respond directly back to me, and then we can share that feedback with town residents.
Great.
I think that's a great
That would
That's
be
a great
wonderful,
idea.
but,
That's good communication.
It's a bigger picture, and I think the more information that
Mhm.
we, the public, and you folks, select board,
Absolutely.
should
Thank you.
know. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks, everybody.
It's great that you all came.
So I'm going to seek a motion to approve the final draft as edited of the communication to Guilford residents regarding the ordinance vote, and to disseminate it as widely as possible.
I can't vote on that. I'd like to see the edited version before voting.
Oh, it just has the or nots in it.
So
It's
that-
this, it's the,
It has,
this.
it has the dates different too. The January 7th, 8th, and 9th.
January 7th, 8th, and 9th. And this is or not. And this is absentee ballot.
It should say Australian.
Australian ballot.
Yeah.
No, this is the wrong one. That's an old one.
Here's the new
Here,
one.
that's the new one. So this is right. The select board shall decide whether
I just
to,
wanted us to all be in agreement about the edits.
whether to adopt the re-examined ordinance or not.
I agree.
And this is or not. And this is an absentee ballot.
And we have the dates?
Yep, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay, great.
Okay. Those are the
And that
notes.
has the date that we will either adopt or not
Yes,
adopt on the
November
26th.
26th.
Good,
Mhm.
okay.
Okay.
So that was,
So I move that we adopt the communication plan as amended tonight.
I will second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are you abstaining?
Um,
Are you abstaining?
No,
Did you say aye?
no, I will say aye.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Gordon?
Gordon. The places that I'm thinking that we need to include this, to disseminate this, are Facebook, Front Porch Forum, and the Gazette. The Planning Commission and the Conservation Commission are gonna do a townwide mailing, and I'm gonna ask them to include a copy of this in the townwide mailing. I'm checking with Penny to see if we can use the E911 email list, but I don't know if that's a possibility or not. Posting in our usual sites, and then a handout on the November 6th voting day. So that, I think we will have, and then.
It would be helpful also if you could all spread the word that there is this communication coming that explains the date, the dates when the petition would be due
Oh,
and
yes.
so forth and so on.
Okay.
So the word of mouth is very valuable in our town.
Yeah, and we're gonna put it on the website. So,
And Peter, thanks for digging deeper for that question
Yeah.
that I had. I think it's important.
I, again, want to thank everybody for coming tonight, for expressing, sharing your thoughts with us, and also for all of the work that you did that we have to repeat. So I'm sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
Well, participation really matters.
Yes,
A lesson in civics.
it definitely was.
Crash course.
Thank you.
One we will not repeat.
Warrants. Gordon, do you want to do it?
I'll do it. I'll make the motion to approve the following warrants for payroll week ending September 30th, 2018 for $7,108.92. Payroll week ending October 7th, 2018 for $5,633.79. Expense warrant number 1807 for $263,487.75. And expense warrant number FW07 for $67.50 for a grand total of $276,297.96. On expense warrant 1807,
That's a big one.
that is a big one. There were three major pieces of that. We did not pay GP, we were not billed by GPI. It was August,
That's
right?
correct.
In August. So this includes August and September for GPI, which were, as you can see from the completion of the big months. And also for the Guilford Fire Department bond that
As well
was,
as the
And the
Algiers.
Algiers.
in the Algiers
Village.
sewer piece,
Yep.
yes. So those were the big pieces in that 263,000.
Thank you. You want a second?
Second.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you, Peter.
Yes.
Actually, it's related to finance, but
Do
it's
we
not
need to
related
vote
to
on
the
it?
warrants,
Should
so
we-
we're gonna vote on the warrants first. Is
First.
all in favor?
Aye.
Now your question.
Aye. So my questions are, did you get a chance to compile the town office renovation budget for me?
I'm sorry, I did not. I
Okay.
saw your email and you already know what kind
It
of
was a
I
day.
had. It was a day.
So we have, we had in
Be
the
ready for
folder
next meeting.
fiscal year 2018,
Right.
how much we spent, and then how much we spent in fiscal year 2019. But what I asked Peter for, and what we will have at the next meeting,
Yep.
is what was our budget and what did we spend? You know, did we perform the way we thought we were going to? And if not, why not? So hopefully we'll have that information. And I have another question about our,
And hopefully we'll come out positively.
yes.
As far I believe it will.
My second question is related to this item on our general ledger. Miscellaneous went to $20,000 and I didn't know why.
That's a good question.
It's a lot of money right there.
Yep, I see that. I will have to look into that. I mean, I can do it at the moment if you wish.
Well,
to
wait, I think you can answer that later because
I
it's.
can answer via email.
Yes. The
Can you
third,
could you express that question again?
okay, my question is, on our general ledger, under select board expenses, we have $0 allocated for a miscellaneous expense, and we have an expense of $19,027.
I didn't catch that.
And I don't know what that is, and I would,
Is that in which period of time?
this was in our.
Last
This is
period?
as of October 4th.
Okay,
So there's an expense of $19,000 against a budget of 0.
yeah, that's very.
So I'm
But was that
saying-
for the month? I mean, that was just for this last period, or is that year to date?
The year,
It's
our
year to
annual
date.
budget for miscellaneous is 0.
I understand
And our
that.
expenses on October 4th were $19,000.
So that's October 4th.
And I don't know what that expense is.
Well, as soon as there's program roads, I could answer. the
And,
question.
okay, well, and I have a third question, which is,
Now I'm very interested.
so we have $276,000 worth of expenses for this,
Warrant,
that we're
yes.
Right.
paying. And I'm assuming that we have cash on hand for
We
that,
have
because we have
surplus of
not,
cash on hand, right?
we have not collected taxes this year.
Well,
There
Don't
is-
believe
no,
that, don't
they-
believe that $5 million figure.
Oh, okay, so that's not.
That's taxes due, not
Oh, okay.
taxes paid.
But
That's
I
kind of
thought, I
different.
thought it.
I know, I thought we
yes,
had,
yes, there is cash on hand. The specific amount, I would need to
Yeah.
confer with Penny because it changes on a daily basis. But yes, there is sufficient tax. They, in a conversation with Penny on Tuesday, they have been, I believe she said they've been averaging 170,000 collected per day.
okay, that'll cover it, a couple
That's
days of
just
that'll
2
cover
days,
it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's 2
Just
and a
wanted to, I mean, so those
It's
were
a
my,
legitimate-
Didn't we
question.
talk to Joe about that early on with the way we collect taxes? Didn't we have that conversation?
we've had a, with Cynthia,
Okay, I thought we had it with them specifically, but.
that's not related to our ability to pay, because that was coming out of the, we had set aside funds for the town office renovation. It was just, I wanted to make sure we had enough.
Yeah, no,
Excuse me, Veranda,
Yes.
for communications, you and I both have this, we wanted to express our appreciation and solace for the fire, the death in town.
I just learned of that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there was a fire on Autumn Hill Road,
yeah,
and it was the night, 4 a.m.?
yesterday morning.
Yesterday. yeah.
Our firefighters went out, and there was the loss of 1 life. And I
Autumn
just,
Hill Road is off of Bonnieville,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
pretty much backs up to the town office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I felt that the select board, on behalf of the town, wants to express our profound appreciation, our condolences. We're so lucky to have our volunteer fire department go out in the middle of the night and deal with traumatic situations. And I know there's been, very little reporting about who was harmed, and, the information is still rolling out.
It's,
But
we know who it was.
we know who it
Yeah.
was, but
I mean, so there's loss of life, which is terrible, but there's also the fact that our volunteers have to deal with loss of life as well as fighting a fire,
Yes.
which is emotionally
4 a.m.
difficult, as well as everything else that they do, so. I just,
That's good.
and Jared was the I saw it on, what was
It
that
was in
on?
the paper.
It was also on TV.
and there was a TV
What
clip.
was the name of the
NBC 5, yeah.
citizen who
Was
died?
it Theodore White?
52-year-old.
Timothy White, yeah.
Timothy White.
So, and there's a GoFundMe or something like that for somebody else in town, or in town for another one of the residents of the house whose name, but I mean, both of you and I were feeling very appreciative
And humbled by their service, really.
so that was the communication. Did you have other communications for us? Don't
Not
forget
this
we need
week.
to sign this?
No, but I need you to sign the
answer.
warrants, please.
Yeah.
I do.
I didn't get
So,
them.
the line that Sheila's referring to is a miscellaneous line under the select board, general, accounts. And that amount, as I believe that most of you remember, at, I believe the last select board meeting, either that or two select board meetings ago, you all voted to close the revolving loan fund and return those funds to the state because we had.
That's where it
used them
came out
with
of, okay.
the life
There
of
were
that
two to
loan.
sign?
And so in order to return
like
those
four.
funds to the state, we had to cut a check and send it back to the
To
state of
expense,
Vermont.
to payroll.
And in order to do that, we had to record it on our accounts. It did not
Okay.
come out of the general
Okay.
fund, it came out of the fund that was specifically set aside for this. But because that did not have an account within the general fund, it needed to go somewhere in order to write the check.
Great.
Could you make a note, either on the ledger or whatever, so that, I know when we come back to expense time or budget time, that's gonna come up and you're gonna have to revisit the whole thing.
I can put a note in the minutes, if that would be sufficient.
Or just something to tickle your memory when we go
Well, we
through
haven't
the
adjourned yet,
budget
so why don't we
process.
put that in the minutes? Why don't we just repeat her question and then the answer?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's, I think, I don't know how long you've been up, I think we might entertain. a
Oh,
motion to
I move
adjourn.
that we adjourn.
Second.
At 7:37.
There should be one more expense warrant, the $67 one. Is that it?
That's for Fish and Wildlife.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Keep looking.